I'm back for another chapter. Abacaxi, the explorer. The next morning, Fred startled awake with a handful of grass and moss in each hand. The nightmares were getting worse. He blinked, looking round. It wasn't in the den, but lying in the clearing near the pool. He wasn't in the den, he was lying in the clearing near the pool. He had dreamt he heard his father weeping, which was ridiculous. His father had never cried in his life. He had dreamt he was running home, deep asleep. He must have heaved his body across the clearing. There were patches torn out of the grass around him. He brushed the mud from his face and crawled over to the den. Leela and Con lay asleep, their hair tangled together, but the pineapple wasn't there, nor was Max. It took a moment for Fred to be sure he wasn't still asleep, and then he jumped to his feet, whispering, "Please no, 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 no." But there were no bones, no bloody. Surely a jaguar would have left the bones. Fred shook Leela awake. "Max is missing." "What do you want?" she muttered. She tucked her knees up to her chin and batted them away. "Sleeping. Max isn't here." "What?" Leela sat bolt upright, her eyes still asleep in the corner, and they were wild. "Max!" she called. She jumped to her feet, scrambling out of the den, tearing her skin on the thorns. "Max!" She stared around the clearing. Her voice rose to a roar. "Maxie, where are you?" Con came barreling out of the den. "What's happening? Are you all right?" She took one look at Leela's stricken face. "Max!" she called. "Stupid idiot boy. What if something is eating him?" "Don't," said Leela, rounding on her. "Don't you dare." And then louder, her voice scraping at the air. "Max! Max!" "He might be by the river," said Fred. "We'll split up," said Leela. "If I go down to the river, will you go back towards the plain?" She stumbled forward, dizzy with panic. "Max!" One of the trees giggled. Max stepped out from behind a cedar at the edge of the clearing. "Boo!" he said. He waggled his arms and legs and tongue at them. "I've been awake for hours and I'm bored." "Max!" Leela's eyes were prick hard and ferocious. "You vile little brat. If you ever do that again, I'll tell Papa when we get home, and he'll beat you with his shoe." Max's face fell. "He wouldn't. He never hits me." "He would if I told him what you did." She looked close at him, her eyes narrowing. "Where did you go?" "It's a secret." "And did you eat all the pineapple?" "Secret," said Max. He wiped guiltily at his cheek. "Max," Leela balled her fist. "Max, if you ate all our food, I don't care what Mumble would say. I'll smack you so hard." Max pressed his lips together and shook his head. "Pick me up, Leela," he said. "Tell us, Max, where did you go?" "Up." His eyes filled with tears. "I'll tell you if you pick me up." He began to shudder with huge, body-shaking sobs. Leela gave him a hiss of fury. She picked him up. The sobs eased immediately. "I can't get you away. I can't get your own way just by crying." "You can't get your own way just by crying, third time lucky," said Con, her face tight. He smiled up at her. His face was clear of tears. "Yes, I can," he said. "Now tell me." Leela took hold of Max's chin. "Where did you go? Where is the pineapple? Did you steal it? Did you eat it all?" "No, I wanted to share some with the animals." "Which animals?" "That monkey thing." "Where?" "By the lavo tree," said Max. He was pointing. "I didn't do anything wrong. He was hungry, and I was just being kind." Leela dropped Max on the ground. He gave a wail, but saw her face and stopped. "Show me," said Leela, "or I won't believe you." An unexpected excitement gripped Fred. Leela began to run, the other three following down the path they had hacked towards the cluster of trees surrounding the trunks of the boys' lavo tree. Max was tugged along by his hand, his legs pounding double time to keep up. "Slow down," he wailed. They passed the lavo tree and moved out into the sunlight in the thick into the thick growing trees. Suddenly Max stopped. It's there, he pointed up at a low-hanging branch. See, I wasn't lying. Above their heads rose a great flowering white tree. From one of the branches hung a small animal, unlike anything Fred had ever seen before. It was looking up with huge eyes at a vulture in the branches above its head. On the ground below it were 3 chunks of pineapple untouched, and some distance away 2 more vultures crouched over the corpse of a larger version of the same animal. Get away, yelled Leela. She ran forward, kicking at the birds. Get away from it. The 2 vultures on the ground took off, startled, but the vulture in the tree only ruffled its feathers. It was enormous, as broad as a Labrador around the middle, and its eyes watched the tiny animal hungrily. The animal on the branch let out a mew like a cat. It was grey-brown with a cream face, a dog-like snout and immense black eyes. Its arms were long and chicken-bone thin, ending in curved claws. It was small enough to cup in your hands. Leela ran to the base of the tree, gripped the lowest branch and scrabbled with her feet against the trunk. The vulture, feeling the tree shake, flapped its wings, cawed and disappeared. Leela hauled herself onto the branches. Her knees were shaking, her breath was unusually loud. Coming back in a second once I've had a drink.